diary entry, day one. I'm going to be downloading Ozone 9 demo version because I've been seeing in forums a lot of people who have purchased it not being happy with the results they're getting. And here's my sort of take on iZotope as a brand. I think they're incredible. I think they are innovators. They really push the boundaries of technology. And my past experiences in previous versions of Ozone is that it's been very powerful. It's a very good piece of software. However, I have this feeling that a lot of people starting out in DIYers believe that it is the silver bullet solution. And the reality is, when it comes to mastering, is that you're only good as your ability to use the tools. So, what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be downloading a demo version of Ozone, and later on in the week, or maybe next week, I'm going to sit down on my laptop with headphones. So, my setup will be similar to what that would be of anybody else who's downloaded Ozone and purchased Ozone, and working on a master. And I'll choose a master that I have previously done on my full rig with my full monitoring system and compare it at the end. So that way I can go, hey, what was I able to achieve in a setting that I'm super familiar with, tools I really know, and then what am I able to achieve with Ozone based on my knowledge and expertise. And then we can make some assessments as to what works really well, or maybe my observations as to what I really enjoy in the iZotope Ozone 9, and what things I felt like I couldn't achieve with it. This is just a process for me because I want to explore. I really want to understand the tool, because when people are saying I'm not able to achieve the loudness or I'm not able to achieve the punchiness or the clarity with this, it's a bit concerning to me, because it's sort of like, well, it's not that I don't believe them. It's just that I know iZotope for having incredible tools and people using those tools, and I know other people, professionals, who are using those tools to great effect. So the better I understand the software, the better I'm able to help others who are using it as well. And maybe, who knows, even help myself and think maybe there are some tools in there that are achieving things I'm not able to achieve yet with my own setup. So anyway, that's diary entry number one. I'm going to get back to work now because, session life. I got. All right, we are there. We are there. iZotope Ozone, I got it up on my screen, and we're going to dig into it. Now, while we're doing this, whoops, not that screen. While we're doing this, I've got the little manual here, so I'll be able to pick out the tools I want based on what I usually use in my chain. But basically what I want to do is, a lot of people are saying that they've got Ozone and they can't achieve the sound they want in their masters. Now, in my mind, I'm sort of thinking, wait a second, iZotope make great products. If you're not achieving the sound you want out of your masters, is it the mix that you're starting off with that's bad? Is it the tools that you're not knowing how to use? Now, I can't really assess every individual's mix, so what I'm going to be doing is just going through the tool set in Ozone as to what I would be using, because there's so many features. They've got so many different processes in this one plugin. It's incredible value for money. They've got so many processes, I don't have the time to go through them all. I'm just going to be using basic ones which I would be using in my normal day-to-day chain that I actually use in my mastering chain. So I'm going to be testing out the dynamics processor, the EQ, the maximizer, maybe some of the whatever other limiting options they have there, and see where I can take a master from and to. Now, what I've actually got included in this session is my master that I did for Mr. No Name, the single release Stranded. Now, this was mixed by Carvana, and it's a really good mix. I'd mastered this with full hybrid setup with analog gear as well, got a big sound out of it, so I'm really curious to see how close I can drive this Ozone to get towards that sound. Now, I'm not going to be using my speakers, I'm going to be using my headphones because I want to test the waters as though I am limited with my resources. I don't have the full size of the room, I don't have all the full size speakers. I'm only working on headphones, laptop, Ozone, because that's what a lot of people might have available to them, and I'll show the limitations, or maybe no limitations. It might be incredible, and it might even blow out the master I did, but I just want to explore it and try this as a bit of a test. So, what I'll do is actually, I'll show you the original mix, my master I did, and then we can start sort of going through iZotope Ozone and seeing where we can take it. All right, so I'm going to play, let's just do this back end section here of the track, which is a fun part of it. And I will play the original mix, my master, then we're going to just dump into Ozone. All right, guys? No, I don't want to break your heart. No, I just want to break your fall. But when the moment comes, I'll leave you stranded. Oh, no, I don't want to break your heart. But I don't want to hurt you more, because my soul's on fire. That's the original mix. Now let's listen to the master. No, I don't want to break your heart. No, I just want to break your fall. But when the moment comes, I'll leave you stranded. Oh, no, I don't want to break your heart. But I don't want to hurt you more, because my soul's on fire. Cool. So it's obviously much louder, so it's not level match, but I just wanted to get an idea for the feel of it. But now we're going to jump into Ozone and see what tools they have and how things work in here. So let's open this up. We're just playing. I'm not like mastering it for real. I just want to sort of get an idea of how I can process things dynamically and what the EQ's capabilities are and what the limiter is, and just see if I can get a good sounding master out of this. So let's have a listen to the original mix and see what Ozone has to offer. No, I don't want to break your heart. No, I just want to break your fall. But when the moment comes, I'll leave you stranded. Oh, no, I don't want to break your heart. But I don't want to hurt you more, because my soul's on fire. No, I don't want to break your heart. No, I just want to break your fall. Cool. So I've got a few things. This is the dynamics processor, and I'm just sort of trying to understand how to read this. So you got your rate. You can use a limiter or a compressor. Let's see what's going on. So you go peak, RMS. Oh, you can high pass the compression. That's cool. That's cool. This track has a lot of body to it, so that might come in handy. I think actually then it says tilt, so I don't know if that's EQing or is that's a side chain. Let me just hover over it and leave it. Displays the detection filter. Okay, so it's a side chain there you can use. Cool, that's cool. Cool. All right, don't want to use the limiter. It's controlled relatively well. I don't know how much compression you'd need for this because it's pretty tight. The transients are working well. It's pretty well glued. I'm just going to bring this input down because the mix is pretty hot. It's right up against the ceiling anyway, so it's good it has a trim function in the plugin. That's a good start. Let's see. Let me have another listen. I really want to make the right decision here. No, I don't want to break your heart. No, I just want to break your fall. But when the moment comes, I'll leave you stranded. Oh, no, I don't want to break your heart. But I don't want to hurt you more, because my soul's on fire. Alright, so having another listen, I'm hearing a lot of transient spikes from the drums. Lots of beam, like poking out nicely. What I'm feeling is sometimes the body lacks a little bit in order to sort of lift into those big sort of drum hits and beat that's happening. And I don't necessarily want to compress from the top down because then I'm going to chop all those beautiful details from the drums. So what I might do is I've got this parallel function here, which is really cool. The fact that I'm not sure if the other processors have parallel functions like that. No, the dynamic one does. So what I want to do is I might actually compress this relatively aggressively and then just blend it in. Just some parallel compression here, just to thicken out some of that body. And I will be very careful because I do not want the low end to sort of trigger that. So I will use a sidechain filter there. All right, let's see what we can dial in here. Probably don't have to go harder than 2.1. Where are we? 2.5 to 1. We'll see. We might muck around with that a bit. Let's see. No, I don't want to break your heart. No, I just want to break your fall. But when the moment comes, I'll leave you stranded. Oh, no, I don't want to break your heart. But I don't want to hurt you more, because Ooh, I like that. I didn't notice there was a few things happening here. I didn't realize you can only see the amount of gain reduction that's being blended in from the parallel signal. So as I drag that up to 100%, where I could actually see all the gain reduction that was happening. But if it was less, you can't. And I don't know why that is. That's a bit odd. I don't know if I like that or not. But what was really cool is I can gain out each of these processes between them. There's an auto gain. I didn't bother to try using that, but I did just bring it up 1 decibel. The attack's relatively quick. It's sort of medium quick and a slow release. So I'm really gelling everything and just putting like 9% back in. I don't sort of like numbers that are percentages. I like to blend in decibels. So I've got something to sort of meter it off. But anyway, so it just sort of sounds good there. And I'll just A/B it for you. Yeah, I don't know if it's doing it for me. I honestly don't. Let's just bring that back. You know what? That is very subtle, what it's doing for me, but it's just bringing that the slightest bit of body back in to the vocal without sort of damaging the transients of the drums, which I like. I like that. That was like sort of the only dynamic sort of movement I wanted to do on that mix, because it's already really super tight. So, good job. A little bit funny the function and moving things. You got like 2 separate thresholds in the same processor, one for the limiter, one for the compressor. But no, very happy with that. Let's move across to the equalizer. There's 2. There's EQ1 and EQ2. I don't understand the difference. Or maybe it's just because you can have 2 series of equalizers if you wanted. So let's have a look at this EQ. Analog? Stereo. I'm just sort of looking at the manual. Read. HUD base view, all bands view. Interesting. There's a HUD panel will appear when you click. Global filter mode. Analog. Minimum phase. Infinite impulse response. Oh, digital is linear phase. Okay. Channel processing modes. Stereo, mid, side, left, right. That's cool. EQ curve. Oh, but there's also... See, I've got the analog unit, so I've even used an analog EQ on this. So let's see what the vintage EQ. So what's going on there with the vintage? Let's just pick an EQ, because I haven't used these. I don't know. I just got to sort of go off what it tells me. Oh, so use a Pultec 1As and M5s. No, I don't like using Pultec, so I'm not going to use the vintage EQ. I'm going to use a normal EQ if I need to. So I'm going to have a listen and then decide based on what I'm hearing whether or not I want to, do any mojo there. But something I don't already like about this EQ is that the dynamics process I had to gain up and out. So like I can gain here more or less. Bring that back to 1. But on the EQ, I don't. So I'm not sure if that's a function. Maybe if I change the view. No, there's no gain in or out of this particular, unless there is a button. No. Is there solo? No, you can't right click. No. Okay, so there's no gain in and out of the EQ, which is a bit weird. But and like I've got enough headroom to work with. Just get rid of that clipping there. Don't know how to get rid of that. But yeah, anyway, I should be able to work with that relatively well. Let's see how we go. No, I don't wanna break your heart. No, I just wanna break your fall. But when the moment comes, I'll leave here stranded. No, I don't wanna break your heart. But I don't wanna hurt you more, because my soul's on fire. No, I don't wanna break your heart. No, I just wanna break your fall. When
I just wanna break your fall. But when the moment comes, I'll leave you stranded.
Yeah, a bit of yin yang EQ, not like super, just ducking a little bit of that slightly lower mid range, like that mid range, and a bit more in the upper mids of the mid range, just to give a bit more clarity to the vocal. And it seems to do it. And the low end's relatively controlled. I don't really want to take anything away from there. And the top end is nice. It's actually quite warm. There's sort of a temptation for me to boost the top end there because it's got this cool sizzleness to it, I guess. But I don't want to because it's just got a good neutral, natural tone. So anyway, let's keep moving on this.
No, I don't wanna break your heart. No, I just wanna break your fall. But when the moment comes, I'll leave you stranded. Oh, no, I don't wanna break your heart, but I don't wanna hurt you more because my soul's on fire. No, I don't wanna break your heart. No, I just wanna break your fall. But when the moment comes, I'll leave you stranded. Oh, no, I don't wanna break your heart, but I don't wanna hurt you more because my soul.
Yeah. I took a bit of the low end just because I felt like against the vocal, it was just another sort of energy point that was just a little bit too, just slightly, ever so slightly too much. And you combine that half dB cut on the low plus that half dB boost in the mid, upper mid, not really upper mid, but mid range-ish. And it just helps the vocals pop a little bit more in a pretty transparent way.
No, I don't wanna break your heart. No, I just wanna break your fall. But when the moment comes, I'll leave you stranded. Oh, no, I don't wanna break your.
Cool. Good compressor. Good EQ. I didn't really get to delve into the function because I don't need to on this song. It's just a good sounding song, and I just want to see if I can beat my full analog chain and everything going on in the original version. Where are we? Limiter. All right, let's keep it moving. All right, so what is it? So we've got maximizer or vintage limiter. What's the difference between the two bad boys? So where are we? Vintage limiter. It's modeled after Fairchild 670, which allows you to create a loud and fuller master by lifting the dynamic range and boosting the overall level of the, or by limiting the dynamic range and boosting the overall level of your mix. Cool. I actually think this could be suitable for this song just based on what I'm hearing. Now, what am I? So I got tube, analog, and modern. Tube, a more balanced limiter with variable attack and release times, provides smooth feedback, limiting with a wide range of sonic characteristics. Analog with a fast attack and variable release time, this mode provides a tight bass response with a thick limiting quality. And modern blends a thicker vintage characteristics with a wide range of non-limiter and modern IRC limiting variable. Okay, interesting. Alright, so they all got very different tones. And obviously we're going to listen, but you know what, just to play it safe, if we're going to go with this one, I'd probably go the modern, but I don't know, I'm just sort of like looking and reading and not really listening at the moment, just trying to understand what sort of tools I got at my disposal. So what's a maximizer? What's the difference between that and maximizer? Lets you boost the overall level of your mixes without sacrificing dynamics and clarity. The maximizer applies to the full band. Wow. Okay. Pumping. The least aggressive style. All right, let's try this maximizer first and see if we can get it into the realms of how loud our master is. Let's just see. Let's just try it.
Break your heart. No, I just wanna break your fall. But when the moment comes, I'll leave you stranded. Oh, no, I don't wanna break your heart, but I don't wanna hurt you more because my soul's on fire. Oh my.
That's starting to sound really harsh in the top end. No more smoothness there. It can get stuff loud, but it's harsh. It's like biting my ears off. So maybe not as much. I don't know what this means. Character. Where's character? Character. Character. Where's the character? What does character mean? the overall response time, attack and release times.
Break your heart. No, I just wanna break your fall. But when the moment comes, I'll leave here stranded. Oh no, I don't wanna break your heart, but I don't wanna hurt you more because my soul's on fire. Oh my God, break your heart. No, I just wanna break your.
Do you know something? I had my master 3.5 decibels down. Not good. That's a bit funny. All right, let's bring my master back up to its full volume, so that way when we're comparing it, it makes sense.
No, I don't wanna break your heart. No, I just
Whoopsie.
wanna break your fall. But when the moment comes, I'll leave here stranded. Oh no, I don't wanna break your heart, but I don't wanna hurt you more because my soul's on fire. No,
I just don't like what this does to the top end.
no, I don't wanna break your heart. No, I just wanna break your fall. But when the moment comes, I'll leave here stranded. Oh no.
Let's just do this to get the overall volume up without using any gain reduction, and then we'll add a limiter and see what we can do.
No, I just wanna break your fall. But when the moment comes, I'll leave here stranded. Oh no, I don't wanna break your.
I think that's a healthy amount. Where's the limiter? Limiter. Beautiful. I'm gonna go modern. Set the ceiling to negative 0.2. And the threshold's at a good level. Let's just figure it out from here.
No, I just wanna break your fall. But when the moment comes, I'll leave here stranded. Oh no, I don't wanna break your heart, but I don't wanna hurt you more because my soul's on fire. No, I just wanna break your fall. But when the moment comes, I'll leave here stranded. Oh no, I don't wanna break your heart, but I don't wanna hurt you more because my soul's on fire. No, I just wanna break your fall. But when the moment comes, I'll leave here stranded. Oh no, I don't wanna break your heart, but I don't wanna hurt you more because my soul's on fire. No, I just wanna break your fall. But when the moment comes, I'll leave here stranded.
Wow. You know what? I think it's the tools and what you choose to do with them, because look, I didn't go into the full feature set of what Ozone offers. I just wanted to use basic tools, which I would use any other day on a normal master, but only within Ozone, and you can get relatively good results. I wouldn't be unhappy with this master. I think there's certain soundstage sort of properties and certain amount of depth that I'm not getting from the Ozone master, which I do get in the analog master. But it's really fucking good, like really good. So just A/B this.
No, I just wanna break your fall. But when the moment comes, I'll leave here stranded. Oh no, I don't wanna break your heart, but I don't wanna hurt you more.
Yeah, like there's obviously like the soundstage of it isn't as big, but like it works. It's good. It's a very good plugin, and I didn't even go into half the feature set. I was just sort of just using basics and trying to move the needle on a very, like, you got to understand, like, this is a good mix to start with, but I just wanted to see if these tools, like, it's just wanted to actually not even just see, just show you that, if you know what you're doing with your tools, just some basic compression, very like, yeah, it's in parallel and you might have to get a bit funny setting that up if you didn't have that inside a plugin, but just what you hear and what you choose to do with it is more important than what you're using. And you can get a really good sounding master from it. Hats off to Ozone. Hats off to, not Ozone, hats off to iZotope. Guys, this is great. So, If you want to listen to the original master of this, head over to Spotify, listen to Mr. No Name's Stranded, and yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed this. All right, guys, take care.